You may have been careful for years, choosing salads, avoiding obvious junk food, and trusting labels that promise low fat or heart healthy. Yet the ache in your knees returns after a walk, the stiffness in your hands lingers into the morning, and a routine blood test arrives with a cholesterol number higher than you expected. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. For millions of people between their mid-30s and 70s, gradual loss of mobility and stubborn cholesterol elevation arrive like unwanted guests. They show up quietly, stay longer than expected, and leave a trail of anxiety and confusion behind. This film begins with a simple but unsettling claim: 4 commonly consumed items, foods and drinks many of us accept as ordinary parts of daily life, quietly accelerate the same 2 processes that undermine healthy aging. First, they fan the smoldering flames of chronic inflammation, a metabolic state that corrodes joint cartilage and erodes connective tissue. Second, they encourage patterns of lipid and glucose chemistry that increase the circulation of harmful cholesterol particles and damage blood vessels. When inflammation and dysfunctional lipid chemistry converge, the result is a predictable decline in both comfort and cardiovascular resilience. To make sense of that statement, it helps to see the body as an ecosystem with visible and invisible rhythms. Your joints depend on cartilage, synovial fluid, and intact collagen, tissues that are nourished, repaired, and protected when the internal environment is balanced. Cholesterol in the bloodstream, meanwhile, serves useful functions. It is a building block for hormones and cell membranes. The problem is not cholesterol per se, but the way modern diets and lifestyles can transform it into a threat. Oxidative stress and chronic low-grade inflammation modify cholesterol particles and the proteins that surround them, rendering them more likely to lodge in artery walls. The same biochemical forces, oxidative stress, advanced glycation of proteins, and inflammatory signaling molecules, degrade cartilage and blunt the body's capacity for tissue regeneration. This video will not traffic in quick fixes or miracle cures. Instead, it will follow a pragmatic arc. Identify the 4 dietary culprits by name, explain in plain but rigorous terms how each one distorts the body's internal chemistry, and offer practical, evidence-informed alternatives that a person can adopt without overhauling their entire life. Expect concrete explanations of mechanism: why a particular fat promotes inflammation, why a certain sugar harms collagen, why processed proteins interfere with vascular repair, together with realistic swaps and a sense of timeline. What you are likely to feel in the first days, weeks, and months after changing course. I do this not as an ideologue, but as a translator of clinical research into the habits that shape everyday health. The claims you will hear are rooted in the same fields of study that guide clinical nutrition and preventive medicine: the biology of inflammation, the chemistry of lipids and sugar interactions, and the epidemiology that links dietary patterns to long-term outcomes. At every turn, I will aim to make complex biology understandable without oversimplifying the choices you face. You should take away 3 immediate reassurances. First, small, consistent changes in diet and habit tend to have measurable effects on both joint comfort and blood lipid patterns. Benefits are often perceptible within weeks for symptoms like stiffness and within a few months for lipid markers. Second, the goal is improvement and prevention, not perfection. Modest, sustainable shifts outperform dramatic but unsustainable interventions. Third, before you alter medications, begin new supplements, or adopt aggressive dietary restrictions, consult your healthcare provider to ensure changes are safe and appropriate for your medical history. When physicians talk about inflammation, they do not refer only to the redness or swelling that appears after an injury. The body's immune system depends on inflammation as a short-term defense, mobilizing white blood cells and chemical mediators to repair tissue and fight infection. The trouble begins when that reaction never truly ends. Decades of subtle dietary imbalances, stress hormones, poor sleep, and inactivity can leave the immune system stuck in a low, simmering state of alarm. Scientists call this chronic systemic inflammation, but in simpler terms, it is a constant biochemical whisper telling the body that something is wrong. Over time, that whisper becomes the background noise of aging. Imagine a fire that never goes out completely, only hidden embers glowing beneath the surface. Every time we consume certain fats, sugars, or processed additives, we feed those embers a small amount of fuel. The body, trying to protect itself, releases more inflammatory molecules. These molecules, in turn, make blood vessels less flexible, cartilage less resilient, and fat tissue more hormonally active. The chain reaction spreads quietly through the body's systems. One of the first places it shows itself is in the joints. Collagen fibers stiffen, synovial fluid loses its lubricating quality, and small crystals of calcium or uric acid begin to accumulate. The result is stiffness, tenderness, and the slow erosion of mobility that so many people attribute simply to getting older. At the same time, the liver, the central processing plant for fats and sugars, becomes overwhelmed by inflammatory signals and oxidative stress. It responds by producing more cholesterol particles, but the quality of those particles changes. Instead of large, buoyant molecules that circulate harmlessly, the liver releases smaller, denser forms of LDL cholesterol that easily become oxidized. Once oxidized, they adhere to arterial walls, forming the beginnings of plaque. Ironically, the very cholesterol the body sends out to repair inflammation now becomes part of the damage itself. Researchers have spent years documenting this cycle. They find that markers of inflammation, such as C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, correlate strongly with both joint deterioration and cardiovascular disease. It is not coincidence. It is a single process with two faces. The same chemistry that corrodes cartilage also thickens arterial walls. That is why lifestyle changes that lower inflammation often improve both mobility and cholesterol levels simultaneously. Diet is the most powerful trigger and the most accessible therapy. Certain foods turn the fire down, others keep it burning. The first and perhaps most deceptive of these pro-inflammatory culprits hides in something that most households still treat as a basic kitchen staple: refined vegetable oils. The story of these oils begins with industrial optimism. In the mid-20th century, manufacturers discovered how to extract oil cheaply from seeds such as soybeans, corn, and sunflower. These products were marketed as healthy alternatives to animal fats, praised for being cholesterol-free. For a time, that message seemed to make sense. But over the decades, evidence accumulated that these oils, once heated, refined, and bleached, lose their natural balance of fatty acids. What remains is a product disproportionately rich in omega-6 polyunsaturated fats, a category that, in small amounts, is essential, but in excess becomes a spark for inflammation. To understand why, picture the delicate ratio between omega-6 and omega-3 fats as a seesaw. Our ancestors likely consumed these fats in a ratio close to 1:1. Modern diets, dominated by vegetable oils and processed foods, have tipped that ratio to something closer to 20:1. When omega-6 dominates, the body produces more arachidonic acid, a compound that acts as raw material for inflammatory prostaglandins and cytokines. These signaling molecules are useful in short bursts, but when generated continuously, they damage blood vessel linings and joint cartilage. The inflammation that follows is not explosive, but constant, a slow chemical erosion. The practical effects are measurable. People who consume large quantities of processed seed oils show higher levels of inflammatory biomarkers and a greater prevalence of metabolic syndrome. On the joint level, omega-6 excess interferes with the enzymes responsible for rebuilding collagen. The cartilage matrix, deprived of proper support, becomes thinner and less elastic. At the vascular level, these same oils oxidize easily when heated, producing lipid peroxides that injure arterial walls. The liver, attempting to neutralize these compounds, must divert resources away from its normal detoxification duties, leading to an overproduction of low-density lipoproteins. The numbers on a cholesterol test rise, but more importantly, the particles themselves become smaller, stickier, and more dangerous. What makes the situation worse is that these oils are hidden in nearly everything, from salad dressings and mayonnaise to crackers and frozen meals. Refined seed oils dominate the modern food supply. Even foods that appear light or healthy often rely on them for texture and flavor. For older adults seeking to protect their joints and arteries, this represents a constant, invisible threat, a daily drip of inflammation disguised as convenience. The solution, fortunately, is simple but profound. Replacing refined seed oils with fats that are stable and naturally anti-inflammatory can recalibrate the body's chemistry within weeks. Extra virgin olive oil, rich in monounsaturated fats and polyphenols, has repeatedly been shown to reduce markers of inflammation and improve lipid profiles. Avocado oil and the moderate use of coconut oil offer similar stability under heat. These oils resist oxidation, protect the integrity of cell membranes, and provide the raw materials for anti-inflammatory compounds derived from omega-3 pathways. The shift does not require deprivation, only awareness and a willingness to read labels closely. When you stop pouring refined oils into your food, you stop pouring fire onto your own tissues. If you are finding this information valuable, this is a good moment to pause and subscribe to the channel. Doing so ensures you will not miss the upcoming sections, where we expose the remaining hidden offenders and outline specific dietary swaps that can reverse inflammation and restore healthy cholesterol balance. Your support also helps this educational project reach others who might be living with the same unrecognized causes of pain and fatigue. Let us continue. Each of these foods tells a broader story about how modern habits undermine biology. After the oils, the next offender seems even more harmless because it greets us every morning. It is the traditional breakfast that millions rely on for energy, but that, in biochemical terms, triggers the same inflammatory and oxidative cascades we have just discussed. The combination of refined flour, sugar, and processed grains has become the cultural symbol of a quick, comforting start to the day. Toast, cereal, sweetened yogurt, orange juice. The image looks wholesome. Yet when those foods reach the bloodstream, they unleash an entirely different reality. The simple carbohydrates are digested rapidly, flooding the blood with glucose. In response, the pancreas releases a surge of insulin to move that glucose into cells. For a younger body, occasional spikes may be tolerable. For an older metabolism, they are corrosive. Repeated surges of insulin and glucose lead to the formation of advanced glycation end products, sticky molecular fragments that bind to proteins like collagen and elastin. These compounds stiffen tissues and interfere with normal repair. Over time, they accumulate in cartilage, skin, and artery walls, contributing to both joint rigidity and vascular aging. Sugar's influence on cholesterol is more direct than many realize. High insulin levels encourage the liver to convert excess sugar into triglycerides, which are packaged into very low-density lipoproteins. As these particles circulate, they can transform into the small, dense LDL types most associated with plaque formation. At the same time, the oxidation of these sugar-derived lipids releases free radicals that further inflame joint and arterial tissue. It is, in essence, the same chemical conversation that began with seed oils, a dialogue between sugar, fat, and inflammation that ends in stiffness and pain. Researchers at several universities have documented that people who consume high glycemic breakfasts, refined cereals, pastries, sweetened juices, experience greater inflammatory responses throughout the day compared with those who start with protein-rich, low-glycemic meals. This does not mean you must give up breakfast. It means the contents matter profoundly. Oatmeal made from whole oats, eggs with vegetables, unsweetened yogurt with chia seeds, or simply fruit low in sugar such as berries provide energy without the inflammatory price. These foods release glucose slowly, maintain steady insulin levels, and supply antioxidants that neutralize free radicals before they can harm collagen. For many, the first week of change is the hardest. The body, accustomed to quick sugar highs, protests with mild cravings or fatigue. Yet within 10 to 14 days, energy stabilizes, mental clarity improves, and subtle differences appear in how the joints feel each morning. That improvement is not imagination. It is chemistry recalibrating itself. By lowering the daily flood of glucose and insulin, you reduce the production of glycation end products and restore the enzymes that repair connective tissue. Cholesterol levels begin to normalize, not because you are taking a new pill, but because the internal signals guiding your liver are finally coherent again. The idea that protein equals health has been repeated so often that it rarely faces scrutiny. Yet the kind of protein we consume, and the way it is processed before reaching our plate, can make the difference between nourishment and inflammation. For many older adults, the most accessible and affordable protein sources are those that come ready to eat: bacon, sausages, cold cuts, or canned meats. They are convenient, flavorful, and often marketed as sources of strength and vitality. But inside the body, these products trigger a cascade of reactions that quietly erode joint tissue and destabilize lipid balance. The problem begins with the preservation process itself. To extend shelf life and enhance color, manufacturers rely on nitrates and nitrites, chemical compounds that, under heat, transform into nitrosamines, known contributors to oxidative stress. Once in the bloodstream, these molecules damage the endothelial lining of arteries, the same delicate surface responsible for maintaining blood flow and elasticity. The body responds to that damage by calling for repair materials, including cholesterol. But instead of sealing the wound cleanly, the chronic exposure to these compounds ensures that inflammation outpaces healing. Over years, this imbalance translates into thicker, stiffer arteries and higher circulating cholesterol. Beyond nitrates, processed meats harbor another enemy: advanced glycation and lipid oxidation products formed during high-temperature cooking and curing. These compounds, sometimes abbreviated as ALEs and AGEs, behave like microscopic sandpaper inside tissues. They attach to proteins in cartilage, making them brittle and prone to fragmentation. This chemical aging effect explains why people with diets rich in processed meats often experience more joint stiffness and inflammation, independent of body weight. The cartilage simply loses its elasticity, while connective tissues around it absorb inflammatory cytokines released as a defense response. Even more insidious are the trans fats and excessive sodium levels these products deliver. Trans fats, created during hydrogenation and found in some processed spreads or fried coatings, disrupt the natural configuration of cell membranes. Cells built from distorted fats cannot communicate effectively or respond properly to insulin and repair signals. Sodium, meanwhile, contributes to water retention and swelling in already sensitive joints. High salt intake also forces the kidneys and cardiovascular system to work harder, creating yet another layer of stress that drives inflammatory mediators upward. Researchers have consistently linked high consumption of processed meats with elevated markers of inflammation such as C-reactive protein and with increased incidence of osteoarthritis progression. Yet the public perception remains that a slice of ham or sausage at breakfast is a harmless indulgence. The reality is that, for a body already navigating hormonal and metabolic changes after 50, these small daily exposures compound rapidly. The arteries and joints, both reliant on delicate collagen structures, suffer first. Replacing these foods does not mean giving up flavor or satisfaction. Lean, unprocessed proteins, such as grilled fish, skinless poultry, eggs, or legumes, offer the amino acids needed for muscle and joint maintenance without the toxic aftermath. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel bring additional benefits through their omega-3 content, which directly counteracts inflammatory pathways. For those who prefer red meat, choosing fresh cuts cooked gently at lower temperatures helps minimize the formation of harmful compounds. Marinating meats in lemon, herbs, or olive oil before cooking further reduces oxidation. It is remarkable how quickly the body begins to reward these choices. Within weeks, people often report reduced morning stiffness and more stable energy throughout the day. The explanation lies not only in less inflammation, but also in the restoration of proper nitric oxide signaling within blood vessels. improving circulation and nutrient delivery to joints. Better blood flow means better lubrication, oxygenation, and ultimately, less pain. As with all dietary adjustments, balance and consistency matter more than perfection. You do not need to remove every trace of cured meat from your life, but recognizing it as an occasional indulgence rather than a daily staple changes the equation entirely. The body thrives on moderation, not deprivation. A single mindful substitution, choosing grilled chicken instead of sausage, or lentil soup instead of cold cuts, sends a biochemical message that the era of inflammation is ending. And with that understanding, we arrive at the fourth and final culprit, one that does not even sit on your plate, but in your glass. Sweetened beverages, soft drinks, and even seemingly healthy fruit juices contribute silently to the same inflammatory pattern that connects cholesterol imbalance and joint pain. They refresh momentarily, but leave behind metabolic chaos that lasts for hours. To understand why, we must trace the path of sugar in liquid form. When you drink a soda, sweetened tea, or juice made with concentrated syrup, you bypass one of the body's most important natural brakes, fiber. Without fiber to slow absorption, the fructose and glucose in those beverages enter the bloodstream almost instantly. Fructose, in particular, is metabolized exclusively in the liver, where it is rapidly converted into fat. Some of this fat remains in the liver itself, promoting fatty liver disease. The rest circulates as triglycerides, elevating LDL and lowering HDL cholesterol. The metabolic consequence is clear: higher blood fats, more oxidation, and intensified inflammation. Fructose metabolism also generates uric acid, a compound that, when excessive, crystallizes in joints and soft tissues. This is one reason why people who drink several sweetened beverages per day often develop gout-like symptoms or worsening arthritis. The swelling and burning they feel are not random. They are the physical manifestation of microscopic crystals formed from sugar metabolism. At the same time, the insulin spikes following these drinks interfere with hormonal balance, promoting weight gain around the abdomen, the most dangerous fat pattern for cardiovascular health. Some people attempt to switch to diet or zero-sugar versions, believing they are choosing safety. But the artificial sweeteners used in many of these beverages can disrupt the gut microbiome, impairing the very system that regulates inflammation and metabolism. The intestines, often overlooked in discussions about cholesterol and joints, play a central role in both. When gut bacteria are balanced, they produce anti-inflammatory compounds. When disrupted, they leak toxins into circulation, worsening the cycle we have been describing. The antidote lies in hydration that supports healing rather than harm. Water remains the simplest and most profound medicine the body recognizes. Adding a squeeze of lemon provides a gentle dose of antioxidants and promotes alkalinity. Herbal teas, green tea, turmeric, ginger, or chamomile supply anti-inflammatory phytonutrients while keeping joints supple. Even infused water with cucumber or mint can satisfy the palate without spiking insulin or uric acid. Over time, as taste buds adapt, the natural sweetness of fruits and vegetables becomes enough, and the craving for chemical sweetness fades. By now, you can see the pattern uniting all four offenders: refined oils, sugary breakfasts, processed proteins, and sweetened beverages. Each one manipulates the body's chemistry toward inflammation, oxidation, and imbalance. Each one seems harmless when viewed in isolation, but destructive when repeated daily for years. And yet, the good news is equally powerful. The body is extraordinarily responsive once the triggers are removed. There is one enemy that hides in almost every kitchen, in every cup of coffee, in every slice of cake, and even in foods that claim to be healthy. It's sugar, the silent poison that damages arteries, weakens joints, and accelerates aging more than almost anything else we consume. For many people over the age of 50, sugar is not just a source of extra calories. It's the root cause of chronic inflammation and energy crashes that make the body feel decades older than it truly is. When you eat sugar, especially refined white sugar or high fructose corn syrup,
It triggers a spike in insulin. Over time, this constant surge of insulin leads to insulin resistance, which not only raises your risk of diabetes, but also clogs your arteries with dangerous fat deposits. Those same deposits harden over time, making your heart and blood vessels less flexible and raising your cholesterol levels, even if you don't eat much fat.
Sugar, ironically, tells your liver to produce more cholesterol, but the damage doesn't stop with your heart. Sugar also breaks down collagen, the protein that gives structure to your skin, cartilage, and joints. Have you ever noticed how people who consume a lot of sugar often have stiffer joints or more wrinkles? That's because sugar molecules attach to collagen fibers in a process called glycation, forming advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These AGEs literally age you from the inside out, damaging tissues and making it harder for your joints to stay flexible and pain-free. If your knees ache, if your back feels stiff in the morning, or if your hands swell after a sweet treat, it's not just coincidence, it's chemistry. You might think that avoiding sugar means simply skipping desserts, but hidden sugars lurk in places most people never expect. Sauces, bread, flavored yogurts, breakfast cereals, and even salad dressings. That's why many seniors continue to struggle with high cholesterol and joint pain despite eating healthy. The best way to protect yourself is to focus on natural sweetness from fruits, which come with fiber and antioxidants that help balance blood sugar. Choose low glycemic options like berries, apples, and kiwis. And for your tea or coffee, try using a touch of honey or stevia instead of refined sugar. Over time, your taste buds adapt. You begin to enjoy the true flavors of food again, not just the artificial rush of sweetness. I know how challenging this can be. Sugar isn't just a food, it's an addiction. But once you begin to distance yourself from it, your energy levels stabilize, your mood improves, and your body feels lighter. The brain fog clears, your sleep becomes deeper, and those morning aches that you thought were part of aging begin to fade. This is your body healing from the inside, responding to your care. And that's the beauty of it. When you remove the hidden enemies, your body doesn't just stop getting worse, it begins to regenerate. Before we move on to the next food, I'd like to take a brief moment to invite you to join our community. If you're finding this video helpful, consider subscribing to this channel. Here we share powerful science-based insights to help you age gracefully, improve your health naturally, and feel truly alive again. Your support allows us to continue creating valuable content designed especially for you. So, go ahead, click that subscribe button. It takes just a second, but it means a lot to us. Now, let's turn to the fourth and final food on our list, one that may surprise you, a food that many people believe is healthy, but, in reality, slowly erodes your joints and raises your cholesterol every single day without you even realizing it. There's a certain kind of food that has gained a reputation as a good fat, something that commercials and labels proudly claim supports heart health. But the truth is far more complex. This food category is full of omega-6 fatty acids that, when consumed in excess, disrupt the delicate balance your body needs to control inflammation. I'm talking about vegetable oils, the ones we use for cooking almost everything: sunflower, corn, soybean, and canola oil. For decades, we were told that replacing butter with vegetable oils would protect our hearts. But science has caught up, and it's revealing a much darker truth. These oils are highly processed, heated, bleached, and deodorized before they ever reach your kitchen. During this process, their molecular structure changes, creating compounds that promote oxidative stress and chronic inflammation inside the body. This inflammation doesn't just raise cholesterol, it also attacks the cartilage in your joints, making them swell and stiffen. Every time you fry something in vegetable oil, you are unknowingly introducing free radicals into your bloodstream. These unstable molecules damage your cells, including the delicate lining of your arteries, which can then lead to plaque buildup and high cholesterol levels. Moreover, an excess of omega-6 fatty acids interferes with omega-3s, the anti-inflammatory fats that protect your heart and joints. Most people today consume as much as 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3, a ratio that scientists link directly to arthritis, joint degeneration, and heart disease. So what should you do? The key is not to fear fats, but to choose the right ones. Replace vegetable oils with healthier options like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or even small amounts of real butter or ghee. These fats are stable under heat and rich in antioxidants that actually protect your cells from damage. Olive oil, for instance, contains oleocanthal, a natural compound with anti-inflammatory properties similar to ibuprofen, without any of the side effects. Imagine reducing your joint pain simply by changing the oil you cook with, and when you eat out, try to avoid fried foods or ask how your meals are prepared. Restaurants almost always use cheap vegetable oils because they're inexpensive, but that golden crunch comes at the cost of your arteries and your joints. A simple change in your kitchen, a new bottle of oil, can literally transform your health in a matter of weeks. As we reach the end of this journey through the 4 worst foods for seniors, it's time to look forward. Because knowing what to avoid is only half the battle. The next step, and perhaps the most exciting, is understanding what to include in your diet to truly heal, strengthen, and thrive at any age. Now that you know the 4 foods silently destroying your health, processed meats, refined carbs, added sugars, and industrial oils, the real transformation begins. Because avoiding the bad is only the first half of the journey. The second, and more powerful half, is nourishing your body with the right foods, the ones that help you heal, rebuild your joints, and naturally lower cholesterol without medication. The truth is, your body is an extraordinary machine of recovery. Even after years of unhealthy eating, inflammation, and stiffness, it still holds the ability to repair itself. The cells lining your arteries renew every few months. The cartilage in your joints responds to anti-inflammatory nutrients. Your liver, the organ responsible for processing cholesterol, can regenerate itself almost completely if you give it the right environment. And that's the beauty of it. Your body wants to heal. It's waiting for your permission to do so. So, what does this healing environment look like? It starts with real food. Food that looks the same way it did in nature. Fresh vegetables rich in antioxidants, fruits full of fiber and vitamins, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and especially foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Salmon, sardines, flaxseed, chia seeds, and walnuts are some of the most powerful allies for your joints and heart. These foods help rebalance inflammation, lubricate your joints, and protect your arteries from damage. Another essential factor is hydration. Most people don't realize that dehydration can make joint pain worse. The cartilage between your bones acts like a sponge, and when you're dehydrated, it becomes dry, stiff, and brittle. Make it a habit to drink clean water throughout the day, even before you feel thirsty. A hydrated body is a flexible body. Now, let's talk about movement. It doesn't need to be extreme. In fact, for seniors, gentle and consistent movement works best. Walking, swimming, yoga, or simple stretching keeps the blood flowing and helps your joints stay nourished. Movement pumps synovial fluid, the natural lubricant in your joints, helping you move with ease and preventing stiffness. The more you move, the more your body rewards you. And don't underestimate the power of rest. Your body heals during sleep, not while you're awake. Deep, restorative sleep allows your cells to repair damaged tissues, reduce inflammation, and balance your hormones. If you've struggled with sleep, cutting out sugar and refined carbs will help you sleep deeper, longer, and more peacefully. Let's not forget cholesterol. For decades, people were told to fear it, but cholesterol itself isn't the villain. Inflammation is. When you remove inflammatory foods, your cholesterol levels often normalize on their own because your body no longer needs to produce extra cholesterol to repair the damage caused by bad fats and sugars. Add fiber-rich foods like oats, beans, and leafy greens to your meals. They help sweep away excess cholesterol naturally. As you embrace this new lifestyle, remember that progress happens gradually. Every choice, every healthy meal, every walk, every hour of quality sleep sends a signal to your body that it's safe to heal. You are not just avoiding disease, you are building vitality, clarity, and strength. Imagine waking up without joint pain, with steady energy, a calm heart, and a body that feels years younger. That is not a dream. It's the natural outcome of giving your body what it truly needs. And most importantly, don't try to do everything at once. Change one habit at a time. Maybe start by switching your cooking oil this week. Next week, cut back on sugar, then reduce processed meats. Slowly but surely, your body will respond. Because healing is not about perfection, it's about consistency. Before we end, I want to remind you of something deeply important. You are not too old to heal. Your age does not define your potential for health. Every cell in your body listens to your choices, and with the right ones, you can renew yourself at any stage of life. If this message resonates with you, if you've learned something valuable today, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Every week, we share practical, science-based tips to help you lower inflammation, improve sleep, protect your heart, and live longer, with more energy and joy. Your support helps us continue this mission of helping people just like you take control of their health naturally. Now, as we close this video, take a deep breath and picture yourself 6 months from now, lighter, stronger, and free from pain. Your cholesterol balanced, your joints flexible, your mind clear. That's not wishful thinking. That's the body's natural response when you remove the foods that harm it and give it the nutrition it deserves. So, seniors, never eat those 4 foods again, not because you're afraid of them, but because you finally understand what they do to you. Choose healing. Choose vitality. Choose the life you deserve. Because at any age, your body can still thank you with energy, strength, and peace.